Hi everyone, it's going to be a long video. I really want to share with you a very easy technique but very versatile with all the things you need are accessible, not expensive, anyone can do it. So if you're following my videos, I've shown you this art journal and I've promised to show how I made this cover, but it doesn't have to be a cover for an art journal. The same technique I've applied here. These are just 3 notebooks that I put together and then made the cover, and as you can see, it's the same thing, only with different colors. I've done the same technique on these 2 tags, and I will explain later all the variations and all the things that you can use. And the same technique here, just to decorate this boring paper bag, and now I can use it as a bag for gifts. So as you can see, a lot of ways to go with the same technique. And let's start by saying, what do you need? And as I said, anyone can do it, and it's accessible and it's cheap, and you probably have it at home. So in terms of a substrate, the surface that you're working on, you can work on anything as long as it's thicker than printer paper, for that matter, because you're going to use a lot of glue and water and paint. So anything goes. If it's here, I've used some chipboard. Here it's on like a canvas that I had from a pad. This was on a watercolor paper. Here I've done it on Bristol paper. I don't remember the weight of the paper right now. It's a little bit thicker than printer paper. So if you want to decorate a box, you can work on anything as long as it can stand all the layers and the wetness. So I'm putting this aside, and so that was the substrate. Now for working on top of the substrate, it's either you use the backing of tissue of paper napkins, and it doesn't matter if the backing has still some kind of print from your paper napkin. So you can use it's even better if you have a little bit of what was printed on the paper napkin. I will explain later why, but you can use it either way if it's just white. So that's one way to go with the texture that is going on top of the substrate. Another way is tissue paper. Now tissue paper is will be a little bit more, will give you more texture, but it's a little bit less flexible than the backing of paper napkin. And another way to go about it is with paper towels. Paper towels also can be used. If it's 2 plies, it's better to try to separate them and use only 1 ply, and of course you will have the texture that you have on this. So just to consider. So that's the first thing, it's the texture that is going. I will just show you. This is, I've made this in advance, so when later on I can show you the painting part and not wait for everything to dry. So this texture is just with the backing of paper napkins, and after that you are decorating on top, and I used craft foam. Now I will give you options for craft foam. Just wanted to say that here, at least here at the cheap store, we can get craft foam in the kids section, and it mostly come like this, and some of the craft foam will come with adhesive backing, so it's also sometimes really nice when you have adhesive in the back. So that's how I made the leaves, and here I used a glue gun. Again, there are options. You don't have to have a glue gun if you don't have it. So that's what I've done. Other options, if you don't have craft foam and it's not accessible in, as far as I know, in cheap stores, there are all kinds of paddings and squishy, spongy, I don't know what to call them, mats for the refrigerator. So this can be a nice thing to use instead of the craft foam. And there are also all kinds of placemats. Again, squishy, spongy stuff that can also be used instead of craft foam. And sometimes, at least here, you can buy craft foam like this, so another option. And of course, I'm using craft foam because it's really easy to cut shapes out of, but it doesn't have to be craft foam at all. You can, if you want to try and cut from something else that is thick, so you will have this, then by all means go for it. Like I could have cut shapes out of packaging, but it's not thick enough, so it would be very subtle on your surface. It needs to be a little bit more thick. I could have cut shapes out of chipboard, gray board, but it's too thick and it's not so it's not easy to cut shapes out of. So I'm putting all the craft foam aside, and let's see. And if you do get craft foam or whatever other thing that you are getting, it's better if you have white, so you don't have to make, when you're going to put paint and gesso on top, then you don't have to do more than one layer to cover whatever color you have there. So this is also putting aside. Another thing that you can, in terms of making the design or decoration, whatever you want to call it, also for kids, all kinds of already cut shapes from craft foam. This also comes from the cheap store. So here it is. So also can be used. They are already cut. It's all in the kids section, at least here. And of course you can just decorate with whatever you want. Like if you haven't noticed, I've used here, I've decorated with buttons, and here with puzzle pieces. So basically you can put whatever you want on top and make a design. I can take something like this and just spread it around and make a design. So moving along, in terms of paint, I've used mostly acrylics and watercolors. You can use anything that is watery, that can be diluted with water and will spread in all this texture. So let's see, and let's move this. I've got here two tags that I've cut out of chipboard or gray board. This is not gray, but it's similar in the material is similar. Okay, and I like to work on any kind of surface that I can lift afterwards aside and not touch with my hands. And you just start by gluing some, as I said, the backing of paper napkins, and you decide how much texture you want, how many wrinkles you want to have in the background. So I'm starting, because I'm working with paper napkins, I'm using this diluted white glue, 2/3 white glue, 1/3 water, and I'm just taking a piece. I'm doing the tags now just because it's a small surface, small area, and it will be quicker to show you what I'm doing. Afterwards I will go and show you the rest on the canvas that I showed you, this one. So you can work with large pieces, you can work with small pieces, however you feel more comfortable. And I'm squishing it just to make sure I have wrinkles, and I like to go outside whatever I'm gluing on top, and I'm just tapping to make sure it's in place. And now I'm going on top. Make sure you are using soft brush, flat soft brush, and don't skimp on the glue. It needs to glide and not drag the paper napkin. And I've said before that it's better to use something that still has some kind of faded print, because then you can see when you are gluing pieces, especially if it's not just a small area, then you can see where you put a paper napkin and where you didn't. So it doesn't matter that there is a print, it will just help you see where you put some and where you need to add more. Now, even when you're doing this, and if you feel you have an area with not enough texture, you can always take another piece of paper napkin and go on top and glue. So you can add more texture as you go. Here we go. Like if I feel I don't have enough texture here, I can always take another piece, scrunch it a little bit, put it down like so, and all this printed stuff doesn't really matter. It will all go away. And now you can leave it like this to dry. You can try when it's still wet to go over the edges. I like to leave it be, because sometimes when you pull, then you pull from the surface, and I like to just leave it as is. Later on I will just trim it and work on a non-porous surface so it won't stick to whatever you have. So let's do another one. Generous with the glue. And let's just use one piece so it will be quicker. And lots and lots of texture. Depends on you how much texture you want. And I know that it looks like a mess, but it is what it is. It starts as a mess and then it gets better. It's all about the layering. Okay, almost done. Yeah. Okay, so now for the design on top, again, you can use whatever you want. I want to show you just the simple one. I'm going to take one of the craft phones. Now, I firmly believe in making some template because you never know. And like with the canvas, I've just taken a piece of paper, and this is like a parchment paper, and made the design. I can change as I go, and then when I'm sure of the design, then I can transfer it to whatever substrate I want to work on. Same here, I can just take and trace the outer lines of the tag and then work and see how my design is going on top of the tag. And sometimes I don't bother, and I just make stuff as I go. Really up to you. And another way to go about it, if you're not sure in going like freehand is not something that you like to do, you can always take a stencil or even a stamp, depends on the size. I'm trying to find something small just so I can show you. I'm trying to find stencil with a small design just so you can see in terms of the tag. I can take a stencil and work with this to make a design. This is not really something that is easy. Small pieces, it can be done. It's not something that I would do, but it can be. I can do something like this, trace the shapes, and there you go. So that's another option to go. And in terms of stamps, if you have a stamp that you like the shape, you can stamp it and make the shapes that you want. So let's see. I'm just going to do, let's do some leaves. And now I'm just going to make some. Yeah, let's do this. I'm taking nail scissors. As I'm always telling you, it's just easier to cut with nail scissors, especially things that are curvy. I'm using the curve of the scissors to my advantage. Here we go. So if the stem that I've made for the other stuff was made with just a glue gun, instead you can use all kinds of not threads, not yarn, what's the word that I'm looking for? I'll just bring something here so you can see what I'm talking about, because just now we just can't remember the word that I'm looking for. One more. Of course, you can use all kinds of like lace trims. Also will look great with this technique. So many stuff you can do, all kinds of also you can take burlap and cut to any shape that you want and it's another option. So I'm just going to play with the placement. The glue is still wet here, so I can just let it be. Here we go. This is one. I have here 3 puzzle pieces, so if I want I can decide that that's what I'm going to put here. It's just things that are lying around here on my desk. Okay, so let's see. Making a stem. I'm just going to reach for something, all kinds of round, I don't know what to call it. So this can be the stem. You can also use jute or all kinds of stuff. Okay, so that's something if you want, instead of using a glue gun. And I'm reaching for another thing that I hope I can find. Just wanted to show you how it looks with burlap on top. If I can find it. Let's see, I've made a long time ago a video about doing embellishments with burlap. I'm not sure, it's a long time ago. It's something similar to this. You can hardly see it. This is not burlap, this is some kind of canvas, but the idea is the same. I just cut burlap or canvas or whatever, that a fabric that has texture to this shape of a leaf, and then went around it with a glue gun. So you can make so many other stuff also with this. Okay, next. I need to remember all the stuff that I want to share with you. It's not easy. Okay, so now another thing, if you want a more texture on, like on the leaves for that matter, you can also go on top of it with, again, more a paper napkin. And if you want to do some more, like I will show you here. Here I went with a paper napkin on top of the elements that I've glued. So that's another way to go about it. You just need to work again with the backing of the paper napkin and gently push the paper napkin into all the nooks and crannies that you have. So that's another way to go about it. Okay, so this stuff needs to dry completely before I'm doing anything else. The next thing will be to make a stem with the glue gun, and then we are going into covering everything with gesso. I like to cover everything with gesso because it's a good primer, and it evens the surface. It doesn't matter if you have paper napkin, a craft foam, plastic bits like buttons or whatever, everything is getting an even coat of gesso. It also, if you have different colors, or the craft foam is not white, so it evens out everything, and then you can work better on top of it with whatever paint that you decide. If it's the acrylic paint, or if it's watercolors, or if you want inks or brushes, whatever, which is the next thing that will come with this technique. So I'm going to let this dry and I'll be back. Okay, so this is mostly dry. I've added few pieces of craft foam here from the shapes that I've showed you that I had, and I've got the glue gun here. I'm just going to do a stem. Let's start here, I think. And again, if I'm not feeling sure, I can take a pencil and just mark. I'm doing it quite lightly because, as I said, it's not completely dry and I don't want to damage the texture I've got. Here we go. That's it. Very easy. And as I said, if you don't have a glue gun, or if you don't like to use a glue gun, you can use other stuff that will go like this. Okay, so now that we have all of this, we are going to cover everything with gesso. And before I forget, another thing with craft foam that is great is that you can do more texture on top of it. You can take a pen and just make some indentation. Let's take something like this. I'm going to hold the leaf because it's still a little bit wet underneath, so I can take a pen and do some indentation and add texture or detail to whatever shape I have. Okay, so that's another way that you can add details. And that's what I like about craft foam. Now, it's not perfect, but it's another way to add details. Okay, so that's one thing. And if you don't like doing something like this, I'm going to show you how you make a little bit more texture, because I don't like to leave it completely flat and smooth, but you can if you want. So I'm taking a little bit of gesso, and what I'm going to do is just going to cover everything, and I'm making sure to getting into all the texture. I'm taking, this is a very cheap brush, but the bristles are a little bit more hard, so I can do something like this and it will get me into all the details. Now, if you don't have gesso, if it's expensive for you, there are so many recipes on YouTube for making your own gesso. I used to make my own gesso, but now I found a place that I buy it quite cheaply, so I don't bother. I just buy it. And also, it also is made with things that are accessible. As if I remember, it's white acrylic paint, baby powder, water, and glue. That's it. So you can make your own gesso. And also you can decide if you want to, you can play with the amounts and make a heavy gesso, light gesso, whatever you want. So here we go, just covering everything. And sometimes, as I said, when you use like green craft foam like I've done here, sometimes I will need to go over again just to cover the green. If depends if the color bothers me or not. So here we go. And sometimes I'm putting, if I have too much gesso, then I need to like brush it off because it's too much, and then I will lose the details from whatever shapes I've done put on the surface. So that's one way. And And when I'm doing something on top of this, and I don't want the surface of the leaf to stay flat and smooth, I will just tap like this with the gesso, and now I've got also texture on my leaf. And it also, I can also go all around the tag. I can again, I can leave it as he is here, or I can tap. Depends on the look you are looking for. It really doesn't matter. Play with it. I think I even have another I've made a long time ago another video of how to make texture with gesso. Very easy. So now I'm covering the indentation that I've done because I'm not interested in it right now, and I'm just covering everything. So now most of the time I'm waiting for the gesso to dry, and then I go over everything with white acrylic paint with a little bit of a yellow acrylic paint, because I think it gives some light behind whatever color is going on top of it. But it's really it doesn't have to be, not necessary if you don't want to. It's just something that I find that I like to do. So, and sometimes if I don't have any patience, I can still go in when the gesso is still wet, put a small amount of the yellow and just add it in some places randomly, like so. And that brings us to this, that everything is covered and I have yellow in several places, everything is dry, and now I can go to the next phase of applying the color. And as I said, it can be a diluted acrylic paint, it can be watercolors, you can also try brushels, you can try acrylic inks, anything that is like runny and can go inside all the details, all the texture that you've made. So let's close this. Here we go. Just have too much gesso on my fingers. Okay, so I was going to do some full colors on this like I've done on my paper bag. I will bring it again, but now I am thinking that I want something else, and you can do whatever colors you want. You can do everything in the same color, you can do the background in some color and then whatever shape design you have in another color. You can work with acrylic markers to do stuff like this if you don't feel comfortable about small details. Really, it can be done in so many ways. Okay, so I'm going to bring some acrylic paint. I want to have fun with this, so I've got some turquoise. I'm thinking just a hint of this cranberry color, and I want some where is it, some greenish color I want. Let's see, maybe, yeah. I'm just going to play with it. Okay, so because I know that the cranberry, I just want a hint of it, I'm going to start with this color. I'm just going to put a little bit here. Okay, and now I need a brush, and of course we need water. What brush? Let's use this. Okay, I've got a jar of water here, and just adding water to the mix. It really is runny, and I'm going to place it randomly on the page, just spreading it. And I can also take a spray bottle and just help it along. It's really easy. Don't overthink it. Have fun with where it goes. That's the whole thing about it. I really like the random pieces that I make, where I'm not overthinking and just letting the paint go wherever it goes. And I can also tilt, help it more, let it spread. Like so. Now, if I don't want my, let's say, cranberry or magenta color to mix with the other colors, then I need for it to dry, and only after it's dry go and add the other colors. But if I don't care, then I can move on to the other colors and just have fun with it. Okay, let's see. There's not much here, although not a lot is needed. Let's take a little bit from this one, which is a little bit darker. Really doesn't matter. I just need it to get out. Yeah. Okay. So once again, brush, water, and just putting it here. I can also do the sides, or do it with another color, really however you want to go about it. So again, just putting it here and helping it, just so you will see. I also have here watercolors. Just want to show you the same thing I can do with watercolors. And let's see. And it needs to be translucent. Don't work with it when it's opaque. That's the whole effect of this thing. That you are working with translucent paint, no matter what it is. You see, I'm not overthinking it. I'm just putting it on. And here I don't care if it mixes with the cranberry. Just having fun. And also, again, I can help it. And I can let it travel. And whatever will happen, happen. Making a mess as always. Okay. So just continuing covering. And I think I need to add some of the green. Very old paint. And this one is clogged. Whoopsie! You see? Yuck! Old. Here we go. Letting it mix. It just adds more shades in between, and I like it. Of course, when we are mixing between two, what can I call it, two families of color, then you are in danger of creating mud, but otherwise it's all good. And of course, if you don't like something, you can always wait for everything to dry, and then you can cover it with gesso and go at it again, so you can always fix it. I'll do the edges later. I just want to continue spreading these colors, and we'll see later on. Okay. I'm planning to use all my old paint like you've seen here, but I just can't get to it. Too much stuff going on. I want to add water to all of the old paint and just start to well, what you call it, throw it at tissue paper, and whatever happens happens, and then I will have lots of collage paper. But as I said, I just can't get to it. I think I need more of the darker color here. Now, a lot of times when all this is dry, things will get a little bit lighter or faded, or I don't know what to call it. You can always again just add more until you're satisfied with what you have. I think I'll go with, now by adding lots and lots of water to acrylic paint, you are basically breaking the pigment of the paint, but that's what is great with this technique. It just creates more texture in the back. You can almost see the grains of the pigment when it's dry. Just adding where I think it's needed. Too much paint, so I'm adding water. Not enough, I'm just adding and playing until I'm satisfied and that I covered all the white. So here we go. Now I want some splattering, so I'm going to reach for a fan brush. I didn't do it at the other projects, but now I want to because I went wild with all the colors and reaching for this for the darker turquoise from the watercolors, and I'm just splattering all over. And it's on purpose that I'm doing it wet on wet, because then it mixes with everything. And I think that if I went wild with the colors, let's go even wilder. And I'm going to reach for some magenta here. And now I'm sorry, just adding water. It's a little bit tricky with the fan brush here, and once again splattering. I think I have a smaller fan brush. I just need to find it. Good luck with that. Okay, here we go. A smaller fan brush, and I'm going to splatter. Don't judge. I'm going to splatter some gold. Okay, water. Yeah, I don't think it will work. Maybe with acrylic paint it would be better. Yeah, it can hardly be seen, so I'm leaving it be. And now I have to wait for this to dry, because otherwise you can't see what's happening. It needs to be completely dry before I continue. I'll be back. Okay, so this is dry. That's the only downside for this kind of technique. It takes a long time to dry, and I really like what's going on, but I want to make my image more distinct, so I'm just going to dip into the watercolors again, and I'm just going to go, I think, in several places underneath my leaves with a darker color. This is just dark green. I don't know, just seemed fitting. I don't know why I picked it. So I'm just going underneath and just making it like there is a shadow. I don't know how to explain it. Just adding where I think it's needed. And afterwards I'm thinking of using an acrylic marker to add some details, at least to the stem. When I'm doing this technique as for a cover, it doesn't matter if it's a journal or a notebook like I showed you, then I don't care about making the image distinct on the background. But because this one is on canvas, it's going to be probably hanging on the wall, then I do want my focal image to stand out. I can also go on the leaves if I want to and add color. It really is just what feels like to you. There are no rules to it, just play with it. And because this is watercolor or a watered down acrylics, then as long as it's wet you can also play with it, and if it doesn't feel right you can mostly observe it. So you can do all kinds of fixing if you feel it's a mistake. You see, I'm just going back and adding a little bit more where I feel it's needed. So, okay. Next, I want to go over the stem with an acrylic marker. This has no brand. I don't even remember where I bought it. Probably AliExpress, Temu, whatever. Maybe Amazon. I really don't remember. It really doesn't matter. I could also use permanent marker. Whatever works. I'm not sure if I want to go around each leaf with this marker. Right now I'm just doing the stem. I don't really plan the whole stages. I know the technique. I started with it, and then it's what I feel at that particular time. Like I thought it would be fall colors, and then I felt like doing it with these colors and go wild with it. So that's how it goes. Okay, do I want to go around? Let's see. I think very gently I'm gonna go around the leaves with the same marker. Let's hope I'm not ruining it. If I am, I can always go back to the gesso. Okay. I'm just flipping it around so it would be easier to go around each leaf. And while I was waiting for this to dry, I colored the two tags that I started this video, and I'm going to show you the tags. I just want to finish this. Now, in some of the projects that I've showed you before, some of them I went and put at the end some water-based varnish, and some I didn't. I don't know, it just, when again, the way I feel at the end of a project, if I feel I want to put varnish or not, really up to you. Of course, you need to be careful, and so whatever, if you use something like, if you decided to use something like brushos and you are putting something wet again on top, then there will be a reaction, so you need to be careful with it. So I really like what's going on. There is all kinds of stuff more that can be done. I can go and rub some gilding wax on top of all these wrinkles. I can darken the edges, which now is really calling to me, and I'm thinking maybe just taking an ink pad and very lightly, I don't want too much, I'm just going around the edges. Couldn't leave it alone. There is always something more to do, and I thought about doing some gold splatter, as I told you, but with an acrylic paint, because the watercolor just didn't show on top of all the things I have here. And I'm still considering it, doing the gold splatter. Let's see. So move this a little bit here. Let's go for it. Whatever will be, will be. A little bit of gold here. Taking the fan brush again with water. It's so optional, you don't need to do this. I just feel like it, don't know why. It's very subtle, but I want it on my canvas. I try mostly for around the leaves, but I don't care if some of it is going on top. Okay, so now this needs to dry. I'm putting this aside, and let's bring the two tags. So once again, same thing. I used watercolors here just because it's a small area and it was easier, and here I went and used the same acrylic marker here, and I'm probably going to darken the edges, and this one just called for a bit of gold and I'm thinking of just going over the pieces I've got here and applying a little bit of gold here. Again, don't know how much of it you can see. Metallics just don't show well in video, so let's see, maybe if I'm tilting it you will be able to see. And of course, if I want to, I can take a gilding wax and go over all the texture I've got here, but it's not something that I want to do at this time. So the only thing I have to do left to do here is darken the edges, which I'm going to do later on, and of course eyelet and some ribbon. But basically this is it. That's the technique. It's, as you can see, it's very easy. You can do so many things with it. Just be creative and do whatever you like and have fun with it. So this is it for now. That's all the projects. I hope you liked it, and thank you for watching. Thank you for leaving me comments down below. I'll be seeing you in my next video. Bye for now.